to get involved, to put skin in the game, to fight for each and every one of you, for your children and your grandchildren, and for future generations of Americans, because this is the greatest country on earth. You betcha. And we love it. And I love our odds with President Trump. And he is my friend for 15 years. And I know the measure of the man, his integrity, his character, and his work ethic. It is tireless. He is savage beast mode every single day. And we love it. It's what you deserve. It's what America deserves and our children. He's going to continue to win for this country. He has made us strong again militarily, and he has stood and fought for our veterans who have served this country, to give them the health care choices and the care that they need to come back and heal when they have sacrificed so much. God bless him for that. And we want somebody that knows actually how to make a buck or two, don't we? An actual entrepreneur. Right? They want to make it like it's a bad thing because he became a billionaire, because he understands the economy and how to make money and the free market and capitalism and lower taxes and less regulation. We want some of that, don't we? Well, the left and Joe and, well, if Bernie and the Bernie Bros will still keep him, think that's a bad thing. They want to tell you that you're a victim, that you have to be dependent on government, that you can't do it for yourself, that you can't provide for your family, that you need to take a government handout, and in exchange they will tell you what to think, what to believe, all of it, and how to live your life. Do you want that? How much do we want Trump? Absolutely. And let me tell you something. President Trump understands what it takes to make America great again. And we are well on our way with over 10 million jobs added, and he has done a phenomenal job, and we need him. America deserves him behind the wheel. We don't need these left-leaning states like, my goodness, your neighbor over there in California, what is going on? Somebody call Smokey the Bear, you know what I'm saying? He might do a better job over there. I gotta tell you. But we want the winning that we're seeing in red states, with businesses open responsibly and safely, with Americans back to work, earning their American dream and living it. Does that sound good to you? So you have a choice whether you want the left that stands by while America burns, the American dream, rioters, looters, all of the above, or do you want President Trump, who is going to fight for this country, who's going to stand for you, that got this country back open and back to work? Because we are just at the beginning of getting back to the American greatness, the likes of which this country has never seen before. He's done it once before, and he will do it again. Right. 4 years! 4 more years! 4 more years! 4 more years! I love it. It never gets old. I'll tell you something else that never gets old. The greatest American family, the Trump family. What fighters are they? Oh my God, I brought my favorite rock star with me tonight. You may know him, you may know him. He's pretty savage for sure. He makes the liberal heads explode. He's a New York Times best-selling author. Ouch, that one must have hurt them bad to give it to him, if you know what I mean. They were silent screaming in the corner. Oh my God, not Junior. Oh my God, and then he did it again. He's read a great book, Liberal Privilege. And let me tell you something, exposing the Biden crime family, and he'll tell you a little bit about that. Because he doesn't sit back and wait for history to pass by. He gets involved. He fights for his father. Nobody has worked harder or gotten out there or done more. God bless him for how much he loves his father. God bless him for how much he loves each and every one of you. He's the Braveheart of the MAGA movement. Hey, let's get some Donald Trump Jr.
For the record, if I have lipstick on, it's because Kimberly just gave me a kiss. Okay, I don't want people to say, the media will be like, Don Jr. was wearing lipstick. We don't know what's going on, so if I am, it's Kimberly's fault, right, baby? Thank you very much, Kimberly, for an incredible introduction. No one's working harder than Kimberly. Also, thank you so much to John Phillips for hosting us here today. Good to see great American manufacturing and trucking. Oh, it's so much better here than to your neighbor to the west. It was funny, I was looking at the smog coming in, I go, you know what, they're blaming it on climate change. So I did a little research. You know that the average temperature has increased 1.4 degrees since 1880. No. Since 1880, almost 150 years, 1.4 degrees. That's why California's up in flames. Yeah, that 1.4 degrees, that, by the way, the average person couldn't tell the difference of in a room, right? That is why things have spontaneously combusted all over California. It has nothing to do with incompetence. It has nothing to do with terrible forest management. It has nothing to do with shutting out loggers and industry from going and taking out old dead growth. So instead they leave dead trees standing there like a matchstick, right? The power lines are regulated, they still have to be above ground. Every once in a while there's a spark, a tree blows over, and they wonder, oh, it's global warming. 1.4 degrees since 1880, according to NASA. I'm not buying it, guys. I'm not buying it. By the way, that's happening too. Have you ever noticed that some of those lines, they happen to magically be right alongside the highways? Because Antifa got bored burning down our cities. They weren't getting enough attention burning down Portland and others anymore. So they started burning down forests. That's the kind of nonsense that we gotta stop. Alright? You guys elected a fighter in 2016. And does he ever fight? But guess what? More importantly, he gets results. I mean, think about it. You had the strongest economy America has ever seen. We renegotiated NAFTA, which they said was impossible, which destroyed American manufacturing, since we're sitting here with American manufacturing, right? Destroyed it. So we sent American manufacturing to Mexico. We sent it to China. Joe Biden's been pushing for this stuff for 50 years. Donald Trump did the opposite and said, let's put America first for a change. Now in Joe's defense, he was pushing jobs to China and elsewhere because they were probably paying off his son Hunter. Now I know we're not allowed to talk about that, right? As per last night, you know what I'm talking about, right? But let's do I like to do a little role reversal. I saw that look, not like that, okay? Let's just say that Donald Trump Jr. did what Hunter Biden did. Let's say that Donald Trump Jr., who they spent 3 years trying to throw in jail for apparent Russian collusion, actually took $3.5 million from the wealthiest woman in Moscow. By the way, you realize you don't become the wealthiest woman in Moscow without direct links to Vladimir Putin, right? We all understand this, that it works a little differently over there, right? So Hunter Biden, I mean Don Jr., takes $3.5 million from a known associate of Vladimir Putin. Money that's tied to human trafficking and prostitution rings around Russia and Eastern Europe. It's, Joe Biden lied last night and said, well, that's been debunked. There's a wire in the US Treasury. That's not debunked. I mean, it's literally there listed. From a Russian oligarch with ties to Vladimir Putin directly into Hunter Biden's account. Now, imagine that was me for a second. What do you think? I'd be doing this rally from a payphone from Rikers Island. All right, you know what Rikers Island is, right? Maybe I have to go to San Quentin. Either way, I'd be in jail right now. Now, It didn't stop them from lying about us for 4 years. They're still talking about it today, right? The FBI has no idea, right? James Comey, you see that testimony? He has no idea how the leaders of the FBI did the things that they did on the thing that was on his watch while he was director of the FBI. Do we really believe this? No. I don't think so. Do you think those 27 iPhones that magically all got erased? You know that one, right? Because a high-priced lawyer and director at the FBI all entered the wrong password dozens of times, that 27 different phones all deleted themselves. And does anyone actually believe that? No. What do you think would happen if someone with, I don't know, my last name did that? You think it'd be a problem? You think I'd be able to say, oh, I forgot my password? No, it wouldn't happen. Now that they know it was them doing it all along. The FBI literally worked with someone that they knew was a Russian spy because they'd been watching him for years so that they could peddle this fake dossier and hold this cloud over the head of this administration. I mean, imagine Donald Trump did this to an incoming Barack Obama, or George W. Bush did it to Obama. Imagine any conservative did this to a liberal. It would be the biggest scandal in American political history. Because it happened to Trump, no one wants any more information. It's the first time the supposed free media actually wants zero transparency into an issue. Because they know all their buddies are guilty and should be punished. This is why you need a Donald Trump. Someone that frankly is hated by both sides of the establishment. Because those people have failed us, right? Donald Trump's approach, the fact that he's a fighter, is why we are getting out of endless wars, right? You saw that, right? They try attacking him. Now everyone in the room says it's a lie, but because it's the mainstream media, they can say, well, we have anonymous sources. It's like, but everyone that was in the room is on the record saying opposite. Well, we still have anonymous sources. You know, it just happens to be a magazine owned by a woman that donated $500,000 to Joe Biden's campaign. I'm sure it's not political. I'm sure that the next day when they announced more troop withdrawals, it had nothing to do with it. And I've been in the room. I've been in the room with my father when he's talking to some of these generals, even casually, right? Why are we still in Afghanistan after 25 years? Well, sir, it's complicated. Well, you know, it's kind of a big issue. I'm the president. Please explain it to me. Well, Wow. That does sound like the Trump train, right? Yeah. These are generals. They've been in this war for 20 years. They have no idea why we are there. They cannot articulate it. But you know why I like it. Thank you, sir. See, American industry right there. Although I may prefer trucking. But think about it. So our generals don't want us out of this war. Everyone else does, right? We can't articulate a reason. They can't give us a reason. We're sending our kids to die there. They've let the military get totally depleted while fighting them. Instead, Donald Trump does the opposite. He wants to rebuild our military here so that when we have to use it, we're actually ready. Right? But think about it. You know why they don't want to end these wars? Because all the people in the Pentagon, they want a board seat at Raytheon in a couple of years. That's how they get paid back. That's the military-industrial complex. It takes a fighter like Donald Trump to stand up for that, because you know the smear campaign's going to happen within 2 seconds. You know they're going to lie about you within 2 seconds to try to get you to back down. Trump's not going to back down. It's not our style. Because unlike Joe Biden, Donald Trump didn't need to do this job. It wasn't the natural progression.
but he was sick of watching people like Joe Biden fail for 50 years. Joe Biden has single-handedly done more damage to blue-collar jobs and American manufacturing than any politician alive. He supported NAFTA. He supported TPP. He doubled down and tripled down on all of those policies for 25 years. He pushed for China's permanent status in the World Trade Organization. His son today owns a piece of a Chinese company that's taking jobs out of Michigan and sending them to China. He's doing it today. And Joe Biden's telling us he's going to stand up to him now. Joe, you haven't stood up to him for 50 years. You're going to stand up to him now?
No.
Joe Biden's never stood up for anything. Have you ever looked at his platform? He's been on, well, that's a good point. It's a solid point. It's a solid point. Well, he can't remember where he is 50% of the time. That's a fact, right? It's wonderful to be here in Alaska. Joe, you're in Nevada. Nebraska? Nevada, Joe. Why is there no snow? No, not Alaska, Joe. It's Nevada. He has no idea. I mean, think about it. Think about it. When Joe does a rally, and I say rally, I mean it very loosely. There's a group of people, and when I say group, I mean two. They're very socially distanced, though, but they're two people, one there, one there. And yet Joe's looking at the teleprompter over here. I, Joe Biden, will now, after half a century of failure, fix things, I think. Pause for applause. Resume speaking. And I, Joe Biden.
Seriously.
It's a freaking joke. I mean, think about it. No. If you've been doing this for 50 years, you should probably be able to remember your platform without a teleprompter. It's not that hard, folks. What? Do I have notes here?
No.
Is there a teleprompter I'm not aware of?
No.
Right? I've been doing this for 2 minutes relative to Joe Biden. Think about it. I build buildings. This is not what I do. It's not that hard. Joe Biden can't figure it out because he's been on both sides of every platform. Joe Biden will tell you whatever you need to hear to win. Right? Joe Biden was pro-life before he was for extremely late-term abortion. And when I mean extremely late, if you look at some of the Democrats, I mean like after the baby is born at this point, right? I get it. Joe Biden has been on the wrong side of every decision of his entire political career. And that's not me saying it. That's Robert Gates, who was Obama's Secretary of Defense. Think about that. Joe Biden is the only person in America who didn't want to go and get Osama bin Laden. He voted against that. And more importantly, what's really funny, and this should really eliminate whatever confidence any person could possibly have in Joe Biden's abilities. From that raid where they got Osama bin Laden, because luckily someone had the sense to override Joe, they found documents, communications between Osama bin Laden and his henchmen. In those communications, which were declassified about a year ago, those communications read and plotted to assassinate Obama, and get this, because that would put Joe Biden in charge of America, and that, in and of itself, would lead to the destruction of America, to paraphrase. Think about that. 10 years after my friend Rob O'Neill shot bin Laden in the face, it's a good one. 10 years after, the person that he wanted to be in charge of America, not in a good way, is the Democrat nominee. Think about it. I mean, we all know, we want endorsements in politics. We go out and get endorsements. That's a great thing. I do not want the Osama bin Laden endorsement. That is not one you want, and Joe has it. Congratulations, Joe. Right? And remember that when we made that happen? The world was happy. Everyone agreed on it. Now, when my father takes out terrorists, when he's wiped out ISIS, when he takes out Baghdadi and Soleimani, well, you would think so. You would think, yes, we should all be able to agree on this, right? What the left do? Washington Post. Oh, well, he was an austere religious scholar, right? Like, he locked people in cages and doused them with gasoline and lit them on fire. He's an austere religious scholar. I mean, imagine how deranged you need to be to think that, right? But that's the Democrat Party. That's acceptable to them. That's the way they look at things. That's the same party that literally, you saw during the DNC, right? They allowed Bill Clinton to speak about decency from the Oval Office. I was like, I don't know if you guys are punking me, but if you are, you're doing a good job, because that is ridiculous. I mean, think about it. Bill Clinton has a front row seat to speak at the DNC the day the pictures of him come out getting a massage from one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. You'd think, I don't know, maybe we'll just pull him from the lineup. But no, they put him up there without any irony, without anything, and he lectures us on decency after 28 trips to Epstein Island, many of which he signed off from U.S. Secret Service protection. I wonder why. These are the people of decency, right? I mean, I don't want to lock up Bill, because in all fairness, hasn't Bill paid for his crimes? No, hear me out on this one, folks. No. In all fairness, folks, he's had to live with Hillary. That is hard time. All right? That's like the kind of time Hunter Biden should be doing. All right? I mean, I legitimately, I gotta say it, I feel sorry for Bill. I do. There is not a human being on this earth that wants out of quarantine more than Bill Clinton. All right? Not one. Not one. You saw that video from him like 2 weeks ago, right? It was like a hostage video, right? It's Shrillery screaming into a Zoom call, for, and that's the same tone whether he's on or not. That poor bastard has had to listen to that for probably 40 years, but she's been even more deranged for the last 4. And he's sitting there, and you just see him. Have you seen a human being more miserable? I mean, he's on a Zoom call to probably, tens of people. Hillary, there's not many, but tens of people are watching this thing, and he's like, please end my life. He's the only person in America who also wants to get coronavirus. He's like, I really hope I have pre-existing conditions, please. Please, for the love of God, get me out of this. You know what I'm talking about? It's funny. Even the press is not going to fact check me on that, because they're like, okay, that's true. Like, it's true. We understand Don Jr. maybe doing a little comedic routine to make a point, but he's actually right. That poor bastard, he's just sitting there. I sent a couple of my friends in the U.S. Secret Service because we all love our law enforcement, don't we, folks? And because I love them so much, I want them to avoid unnecessary paperwork. So I sent them a text message, be like, listen guys, because I love you, just a heads up. One of your protectees looks like they're about to off themselves. Please get involved. They all laughed. They understood exactly who I was talking about. I don't think I even had to go into details. Because they were like, yeah, are you watching this thing too? I'm just kidding. They would never say something like that. But you know what he's thinking as she's screaming there into the Zoom camera? He's just putting himself in a happy place. He's thinking of that blue dress. And he wants to be, Bill wants to be in that blue dress. And he wants to have those red high heels on. You know, the picture from Epstein's apartment. And Bill's just sitting there clicking them together like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Just, there's no place like Epstein Island. Just get me the hell out of here. Right? Imagine she was president. Oh man. But no, instead, you got someone who's finally getting results. You never hear about them, right? You don't hear about the USMCA. You don't hear about a trade deal with China. You don't even hear about peace in the Middle East.
No.
I mean, think about it. Peace in the Middle East is being neglected. You know what else is being neglected? Funding of the task force to combat human trafficking and child sex trafficking, right? I mean, this is a problem. In all fairness, as old as time, probably. There's always been plenty of sick people. A problem as old as time. Why is Donald Trump the first person to step up and say, hey, we gotta actually do something about this? Right? So they put $100 million into this. Meanwhile, Obama sits on, gets $100 million from Netflix. And he doesn't get asked about, are you okay with this cuties thing? Like, because I would think the normalization of pedophilia and the sexualization of children is a bad thing. I mean, it seems to be, to whomever I speak to, they all agree. So I told my guys, I go, listen, I'm going all in on this issue because we got to combat this nonsense. Right? So I came out very strongly as anti-pedophile. Now, you would think in reasonable America that you could do that, and that should be a 100% issue, right? Wrong. Wrong. I had blue checkmark Twitter come after me for being anti-pedophile. Notice how no one in the media asked Susan Rice, who sits on the board. We're not sure why. We don't know what her qualifications are, other than she worked for Obama. I'm sure she's making a big salary to sit on the board of Netflix. No qualifications. That's fine. That's, it's how the Democrats pay each other back. It's like the unions, right? That's how it works. We understand. But how come no one in media is asking that question? Like, do you not have an issue with that? How come they're not asking Obama? I mean, he was a president. He could have done something about these things. But he didn't. And Joe Biden didn't either. And that's why when you hear talk last night, right? Oh, he's gonna fix racial inequality in this country. I go, really? That's interesting, Joe. Why didn't you do it in the first 47 years? No, seriously. Why didn't you do it, Joe? Yeah. You celebrated with segregationists for years. You passed crime bills that put people in jail for decades and destroyed families. You pander on the issue now, but, I would have thought, as a thinking man, I don't want to confuse that with Joe Biden, but I would have thought, if you really cared about the issue, maybe, just maybe, you would have utilized your position as, I don't know, vice president to the first African-American president to do something about the problem. But they didn't. Who did? Donald Trump. Why did Donald Trump do prison reform, opportunity zones, the First Step Act? That wasn't Republican dogma. That wasn't conservative stuff. He did it because it was the right thing to do. But that's the problem, guys. We've gotten so used to our politicians just talking, telling us what we want to hear, doing nothing, but not being held accountable for doing nothing. Joe Biden's made a half a century career of it. If he could have fixed anything, he would have done it by now, I promise you. They all have. That's the reality, right? These guys criticize Trump. Oh, Trump's doing it all wrong in the Middle East. 2 peace deals and 1 in Kosovo later. Why don't they have the same hatred for the people who have failed us for decades? Why don't the New York Times and the Washington Post call out our experts? I use experts in very large air quotes, because you should not be an expert if you haven't been right in decades. You should sort of lose the qualification, right? You maybe gotta get recertified. So they criticize my father and the administration for doing it differently, and we end up with multiple peace deals in the Middle East. I mean, that's the holy grail of geopolitical politics, right? We've been hearing about this stuff for our entire lives. No one seems to actually be able to deliver anything. Donald Trump does, and you know what they spend time talking about? They spent more time fact-checking my sister's RNC speech when she said that her 3-year-old son built his grandfather a Lego White House. You know what I'm talking about, right? This is not even like an exaggeration, right? Remember this? She tells the story. Her little son, my nephew, he built his grandfather a Lego White House, and you can see, a child that did something.
that's conservative, maybe. Probably doesn't know yet, unlike kids who can identify whatever they want at 3 months old. Let's figure it out. But the media. Did he do it by himself? I don't know. It's like, was he assisted? He's 3 years old. He probably had some help. Like, what's your point? They spent more time trying to cancel a 3-year-old because my sister peripherally touched on a little story. That's true, and there's photos. But it shouldn't surprise us. Look at what they did to Brett Kavanaugh. Right? They would destroy a man's life, his family, his future, his career because of politics. And I'm sure they'll do the same to Amy Coney Barrett. They're lining up the rape accusations as we speak, I would imagine. Right? We saw that one. So I was like, you know what? Maybe that's just them playing dirty politics because that's what they do. But then they did it to 16-year-old Nick Sandmann. Ooh, what was his crime? He was a conservative Christian in a MAGA hat. Right? Marching for life. Ooh, terrible. Let's destroy him. Ooh, he's from the South, even better. Let's end his life. 16-year-old kid. That's why he's the highest paid person at CNN. Yeah, they do it to us all the time. They've been lying about my family and myself for 4 years. They were dreaming that I did the stuff that Hunter Biden did. Dreaming. Like that would be the holy grail of, owning us if I'd have done the stuff that Hunter did. But now that Hunter's doing it, and it's not just Russia. There's the Ukraine. I mean, who wants 83 grand a month to do nothing, where a job you don't have to show up, in a language you don't speak, in a business you know nothing about? I want some of that. I may have to become a Democrat. No, because if I was, I could do that. There'd be no problem, right? I could take $1.5 billion from the Chinese government. $30 million a year in fees in a typical fund, just so you understand. You think Joe Biden's going to be tough on China?
No.
He spent 50 years shipping our jobs there, our manufacturing, our American dream to China. He said it was racist and xenophobic to shut down travel from the epicenter of a viral outbreak. I mean, at what other point in world history would shutting down travel from the origins of a deadly virus not just be, common sense? Right? It was racist and xenophobic. So he says that Trump's plan failed. Well, what would have happened if you kept the borders open for another 8 weeks like you wanted, Joe? Tens of thousands more people coming here. Something spreads exponentially. They don't talk about Joe Biden's failures in swine flu in 2009, because that was Obama and he could do no wrong. Joe Biden's own person said, man, that was a total disaster. We basically just got really lucky that this thing wasn't that deadly. Tens of thousands of people were infected before they moved an inch, before they did anything. 60 million people got it. You don't hear about it. Because Obama could do no wrong. So that's what we're up against, folks. That's the insanity that we are up against. We don't have the benefit. People ask me, they're like, Don, you're going to all these small towns all over America. Hey, I kind of prefer it, right? I get it. I live in New York, but I have some friends that Mark can vouch for me. My free time is spent in a real America. I'm hunting, I'm fishing, competitive shooting, all these sorts of things. But I get some of the irony of that. But we're doing this for you guys. We don't have the benefit of a mainstream media giving us free coverage, free boosting. They lie about us day in and day out. Same thing happens in social media, right? If you're conservative in social media, you get censored, you get deplatformed. Ask me how I know. I get canceled every other day. Same thing happens with big tech and search engine optimization. We got a lot of big people, a lot of powerful people working against us. But we're doing this for you. All right? Thank you. I love you too, sir. Thank you. I love the enthusiasm, guys. That's awesome. But to drive home the point, the last thing my father said to me, sort of when we went down in the elevator, June 16th, 2015. All right, we went down in the elevator with him as a family before he sort of just went down with the escalator with Melania. You guys remember that one, right?
Yeah.
And he looks me in the eyes and he just goes, and now we find out who our real friends are.
Right. Right.
It's an important thing. It's important. Well, that's true. But even then, more importantly, he knew that those people that were his friends for a long time, you know, some of those Hollywood people or the 150 rappers that wrote about him in his songs, once he came out as a Republican, that's all forgotten. Those relationships are gone. So he knew that. But more importantly, he knew that, and he did it anyway. Because it's time. Someone had to actually fight. Someone had to have the ability to get something done. Not just because they've been there longer than someone else. Not because it's their turn. You've seen these hearings. Some of these people, the finance hearings, you have people that know literally zero about finance. But they're making trillion-dollar decisions with your money. That's what they always talk about, right? Oh, it's a government-funded program. No. It's a taxpayer-funded program. They're making trillion-dollar decisions. They don't know what they're talking about, and they're only there because they've been there longer than someone else who actually may know what they're talking about. That's how the system works. So my father got fed up. Over time, he was throwing lots of stones and finally just said, you know what? I have to get in it. And you've seen the results. Lowest unemployment in American history for every demographic. Your 401k is through the roof in the midst of a global pandemic. Right? More importantly, they talk about, you see this, the other one the reporters love. Oh, man. The economy, it's doing really well. Oh, that's terrible. It's so bad for the Democrats and us. I mean, the media is hoping for failure, right? You know that right now, in the midst of a pandemic, the unemployment numbers are the same as the Obama-Biden average in the middle of a global pandemic. So when Joe talks about how he gave us some sort of great economy, I'm trying to figure this out. It doesn't make sense. Of course, Chris Wallace isn't going to fact check him. It's nonsense. Those numbers went through the roof because of Donald Trump. Now, you know what those numbers also forget and what the media will also not point out? When they're happy with the economy, they're saying, wow, these numbers are really impressive for Donald Trump. You know, man, it's much better than we thought. The recovery's much faster. You know what they're forgetting? I don't know. Can you think of a really large couple of states that are not yet back to work? How's your neighbor doing? Are they fully immersed in the economy? I mean, that's what, 42 million people? That's kind of a big one, right? 42 million, that's kind of, Nevada, New York, Michigan, Pennsylvania. So the economy is doing pretty well as an average with, I don't know, 5 or 6 of some of the biggest states in the union not back to work. They don't tell you that either, because that means the fundamentals